What's up? I don't have a lot of videos. So if you watched the previous video, you're going to notice I made a trick. I'm just going to call it out. I'm in the same garage, in the same shirt, the same hair, drinking the same beer that I was in the last one, which tells you two things. I'm not very good at videography, and I am also a slow drinker of beer because I don't really like Yingling, but that's all it was. It was either that or Bud Light. And yeah, Yingling sounds fancier. It sounds more proper. So here we go. Um, so a couple years ago, I forget what I was doing. I think I was walking through the grocery store and I started thinking about life. And I think I saw the cash registers and I was like, oh, that's cool. They're making some auto or self checkout ones. And I started going through that, like, wow, like I can do this so quickly. And what a convenience. It has its things, its issues, but for the most part, like if you have a pretty straightforward order, it's pretty nice. You don't have people. The lines are normally they go faster because there's a lot more in a smaller amount of area. Blah blah blah. Anyways, um, but then I got to thinking, like, what is happening in our society that we're so busy that we don't even want to talk to the person behind the cash register anymore. Historically, like those people are essential, and it's almost like we're trying to replace them, or businesses are trying to replace them. And I get it. There's a whole uh, economic drive for this. I get that, like with minimum wage and inflation and a whole lot of things that these corporations are just looking at. They're just looking at the bottom line, like, hey, how much is it going to cost to have you know Tina and John over here on the cash register versus robot 64345. Terrible. Um, they just look at the bottom line. Um, but I will say that's not always the best resolution. Um, Maybe these corporations want to do that. I'm not really on a rant here about corporate versus small business or local or whatever. That'll be a separate video because I do have a lot of thoughts on that. But this video is, I would say this is probably my first in a long time, at least, kind of mini message that I want to share. It's not necessarily profound. I'm a pretty simple guy. I see things pretty simplistic. Um, but I think God gave me these few items that I just want to touch. And if I was really special and cool, I would have it all laid out in a PowerPoint or a Canva point, whatever, CapCut. But I'm not. So you have to listen. Maybe one day I'll get into that stuff if this continues and matures. But if you see the at least on StreamYard, the title is "Onward into Maturity," and that's again referencing the Eldridge crew, Wild at Heart. Maturity is not an option. Otherwise, or AKA either mature or kind of die. Not physically, but fall away. Maturity is a necessity in culture today, especially, like, not especially, but in the hearts of the believers, in the ones that follow Christ, in his bride, like his bridegroom. And he's calling us into maturity, and that's really honor. Like, that's a big honor to have. And on the other hand, I think that we have not done the best job of that, practically speaking. So I think, I'm not trying to prophesy or interpret what I think God's given me these things for, but that's kind of some foundation, some groundwork as I jump into this. So here we go. I wrote this, actually, I think it's okay. It'll be 2 years in January, where I started thinking about this. and it was leading up to this. So, um, fun fact: I'm gonna give you 10, but I wrote initially because I was ambitious. I wrote 20 ways to grow your faith. Practical, simple, repeatable. I only got 10. So I still have 10 more to fulfill. So maybe in the future, if anyone ever watches this and has some other ideas, throw them in the chat box, because the church grows by iron sharpening iron. So here we go. Some of them might have a little more context to them. Some of them are pretty straightforward. So, number one, here we go. Avoid self checkout kiosks. Seek human interaction. Practical, simple, repeatable. Seek it, avoid it. Seek out human interaction, avoid self checkout. And I'll give a little bit of backstory on this. I talked about this already. Human interaction is amazing. It's such a blessing. It's such a gift that God created human beings who have hearts, minds, will, emotions, ideas, thoughts, dreams. He created us, and we help each other. We stir another up in our faith. We challenge each other. And whenever we are not interacting, there are times where we need time away. I get that. But the grocery store doesn't really, it's not a burden for the general population. Go and talk to someone, shine the light of Christ into that person's day. What a gift. What an honor. And it's being stolen out from underneath our nose. So maybe it's a hot take, maybe it's just my opinion. But I would challenge you, seek it out. That's just number one. Number two, while driving or commuting, pray for one friend or couple, like a friend or a married couple. Just give it a minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes. Who is in your life that you appreciate and you love, but maybe haven't prayed for? Even if your commute's 5 minutes, even if it's 2 minutes. I used to work when I at my last job, or my last corporate job. I worked, and I lived, I think it was 3 to 4 minutes from where I worked. And yeah, so I don't know. I said that because I'm probably not a good example of practicing what I preach there. But silence is okay in the car. That's like take a slash there, like pray for someone slash maybe implement some silence. But while driving or commuting, pray for a friend. What's a better gift that you can give a friend that you love? Prayer. Give it to him. Bring him before the Lord. Simple, practical, repeatable. Number three, once a week at least, choose discomfort. I have some examples here, and I haven't read this in a long time. I have avoiding sweets as an example, fasting, rejecting standard entertainment like Netflix or Apple TV or Disney Plus or YouTube. All of these things are things that are pointing at me. Once a week, choose discomfort. Interjection here. There's an amazing book. I can't remember the author right now, but it's called The Comfort Crisis. No affiliation. No, I don't get any bonus points or any money. But that book was very, very impactful, and I actually need to read that again. I listened to it on audio, and I would love to get the physical copy now. But it's challenging when the author does a great job of laying out some of the things that we just assume about life. Like even right now, I'm sitting on a cushioned chair, like comfort. we weren't necessarily born and created into a society or a culture that was meant to make us comfortable, because comfort often leads to passivity. So, anyways, great book. I would recommend it. Let's go. Keep going. 3 down. Number 4, text or call or email an old friend a word of encouragement, exhortation, or word of wisdom. So there's a caveat to this one, because it does kind of require that you do number 2, which was while driving or commuting, pray for a friend. Now, it doesn't have to be the same friend, uh, but when you start praying, God starts speaking and He starts responding. Maybe not instantly. Oftentimes, I actually find that it's when you're least expecting it, through a dream, or through something that you're reading or you're watching, um, or just there's something you see in nature or in an interaction with some friends. Like it, He's just so good. He's so kind, uh, and he brings himself into our life, and I love it. So yeah, text an old friend a word of encouragement. Like if you have some downtime, if you have 5 minutes, call an old friend that you just are thinking about, or maybe if you've lost touch with a little bit, and just say, "Hey, I'm praying for you. Here's what, like, listen and offer some words of encouragement." Uh, Carry on. Number 5, once a day, pause. So simple. I love it. Um, Fill your heart with gratitude. Release all things to Jesus. This was, man, going back to these days when I wrote this, this was absolute life to me. Pausing, releasing it all to Jesus, filling my heart with gratitude even when things felt so hopeless. But when you do that, when you pause and you release it all to Him, He helps you see what you can be grateful for. Maybe I have that out of order. Pause, release all things, all your cares, all your concerns, all your relationships, all your questions, all your fears. Release it all to Him in that moment. Like it may come back a little bit, but just in the moment, do your best. Just let go for a minute or 2 or 3, and you can build up a tolerance, and you can do it for longer. And then the next thing you know, you're living your life in joy and carefree, and you're hopeful again. Simple. Starts with a pause. I would add there, I don't think I wrote this anywhere else, but I would add, take deep breaths. YouTube, go on YouTube, other than here, and find some breathing exercises. Simple, was it the one I just heard? Breathe in for 5, hold for 2, let go, and release for 7. So, and it's so powerful. I promise. All right, halfway, and I gotta pick up the pace here. Number 6. This might be hard for some people, depending where you live. Get out into nature. And I have some thoughts. I said change your scenery for at least 15 minutes. This can be daily, this can be weekly, this can be as needed. Um, I live on the east coast of Florida, so I kind of have a lot of I have a lot of options. It's just we battle the heat. So we can either go inland, and go into the forest, or there's some pockets of forest within town, or we can go to the beach, or we can go to it's called the intercoastal. Like there's just a lot of pockets. There's a lot of water features in Florida. So I'm kind of blessed with that. But I would say if you're in a big city, if you're like, I imagine, New York or Chicago or Los Angeles or San Francisco, or wherever, I'm sure there is some nature, but you might not be able to get to it, within, the time frame you have. So I would say just sit in the sun. I have a couple of thoughts. Sit in the sunlight, close your eyes, and let the warmth. Like, if it's summer, let the heat heat you up and feel it. Like, allow the sun to do uh, what it's designed to do, keep us warm and give us light. If it's cold, to definitely do that, because that's going to feel amazing. Or I would also recommend something like taking your shoes off. Um, Taking your shoes and socks off, get your feet on the ground, even if it's concrete or pavement or asphalt or road. Get your feet outside of some of that comfort, socks and shoes, which are padded, and onto a hard surface. Feel it again. You're gonna feel alive. Um, there's so many things you could just, honestly, if it's winter where you're at and it's cold, go outside and just take 10 deep breaths. And that, to me, that counts. The goal here, this is, I'm not legalistic. These are just encouragements. These are just ideas um, that will spur us into growing our faith. Next, number 7, find something to laugh about. Joy and laughter is so powerful, scientifically proven um, to basically change the wiring of our brain, to change our mood, to affect us physically, like so many things. I'm going to honor this guy real quick. I have a mentor in my life that told me a story about him and his son, and just this practice of when things are hard, to just force the biggest smile they can. He told the story of mountain biking, and they hit a hill that was just unbearable, wanting to force them to turn around and to quit. And he looks at his kid, his son, and says, "You know what? Just put on the biggest smile you can, and just put it on, cheesy, like force it out." And that changes something, and it changes something in your brain. You're like, there's actually a chemical reaction that's happening, and by doing that, it took him off of focusing on the hill and more focusing on joy and feeling good, and they overtook that hill, and that's so cool. All right, number 8, meet a new person, preferably someone with a diverse background or a different background from you. So if you grew up Christian, meet an atheist. If you grew up Jewish, meet a Christian, meet a Muslim. If you're white, meet someone who's black or Indian or Hispanic. If you're Hispanic, meet someone who's black or white, and have real human connection just for a minute. Try it. It's amazing. People are so profound. I believe they're profound because God's imprint, God's fingerprint is on every single one of us. It's just sometimes we bury that or we hide that with different masks or, numbing features. That's a whole nother conversation. Meet a new person. It's amazing. If you're an introvert, I understand this is harder, but you don't have to meet you don't have to meet an extrovert. I'm not asking you to be an extrovert. Just open your eyes, and even if it's just a hello, how are you? Like, what are you, like, a question, a second tier question beyond the how are you doing. Try it. Okay, number 9. I'm getting close to time here. My battery's about to die. Number 9, exert your generosity muscle whenever possible. This is so powerful. I have to go back into my journals and find this entry that I wrote a time I was leaving South Africa, and generosity became real to me. And I'm not very generous, but I guess I was perceived to be in that moment. I gave a tip to a guy who was working at the airport. I don't know, I was just appreciative of the coffee he made me, and I gave him a tip, or maybe it was a girl, I can't remember. Um, and the look on their face, like I made a mistake, like I gave them way too much money, and it was probably the equivalent of like $2 to me. It was in South Africa, and from that, like I wrote a whole journal entry about generosity and how generosity could change the world. I gotta find that, but I relate that generosity as a muscle, and muscles need to be flexed and to be broken down and to be built back up. And that's how you grow it, right? So exert that push your generosity where to a point where you can't physically do it, right? Like relating to the idea of like building a muscle. Try to lift a weight of generosity that's too heavy, and see where God comes in and meets you. All right, number 10, final one for tonight. Have one meaningful conversation with a trusted source or a lifelong friend. This one is so powerful. Um, this is something I value so much. It's just having meaningful conversations, kind of like what I'm doing here now. It's just no one's talking back to me. Um, it's going beyond. There's an author, Ted Decker, in one of his books. The main character was I think was blind and was told or taught to see beyond. Um, yeah, let's go deeper. Let's not just live status quo lives like with our friends. Like, you're friends for a reason. Be vulnerable at a comfortable pace. Challenge yourself, but be vulnerable at a pace that you can handle and you can feel okay about. And then the next time it'll be a little bit more maybe. But this isn't just my thoughts. Like I really do believe this is like Holy Spirit working in my heart and teaching me. It's just some 10 simple things that I can identify and implement in my life, um, to grow in maturity. And then it's probably elementary, but sometimes we need that stuff. We need the simple stuff. Um, and with that, that's a wrap. And it's late. It's almost 1 o'clock in the morning here, and I'm whooped. And I have a job tomorrow, so I am grateful for any human beings that lay eyes on this video and hear these words. And I challenge you to try, consider these things, write them down, like take them with you, or at least a couple of them. Just try it. What's the worst that could happen? All right, y'all. In love, in Christ. Amen. Good night.